China's Yangtze River is the world's third longest, behind the Nile and the Amazon. The Yangtze has traditionally been considered a dividing line between North and South China. From its source in Qinghai province, it flows for over 6,300 kilometres eastward into the East China Sea at Shanghai. 4 of China's 5 main freshwater lakes contribute their waters to the Yangtze River. Traditionally, the upstream part of the Yangtze River refers to the section from Yibing to Yichang. The middle part refers to the section from Yichang to Hukou, where Boyang Lake meets the river. The downstream part is from Hukou to Shanghai. Looking at these recent pictures, it's hard to accept that the river is suffering from major health concerns. The first annual health report on the Yangtze River indicates a river in crisis. Authored by the International World Wildlife Fund and the Yangtze River Water Resources Commission, it shows that 1/10 of the river is critically polluted. Their awareness of the situation is rather weak. One reason is that a lot of information about water quality and pollution has not been made public. If we immediately informed them about the pollutants in the water, they would be very worried. Perhaps the most vulnerable are the Yangtze River's thousands of boat people who are completely dependent on it for food and water. Li Yongfu is a fisherman who shares his boat with his wife, children and grandchildren. The pollution is much worse than it was during the 1960s through to the 1980s. Now there are fewer and fewer fish. But we are not really that clear about the situation. We have to purify the water with alum in order to use it for drinking. It can't be drunk without purifying it first. The World Wildlife Fund joint study reported that the river's annual harvest of aquatic products dropped from 427,000 tonnes in the 1950s to about 100,000 tonnes in the 1990s. Tributaries that flow into the Yangtze, like Chao Lake, are contributing to the problem. Rimmed with factories and fields that use chemical fertilisers, it is one of the most polluted places in China. Every spring, fishermen at Chao Lake are required by environmental laws to halt fishing for a few months. During this time, they repair their nets and worry about their livelihood, which they say has dropped over the last 5 years. Ordinary people like us don't understand the situation very well, but we do know that the fish don't taste as good as they used to. It needs a scientific evaluation. We can't do it ourselves. City sewerage is also a problem. In Wuhu City, this canal sends the sewerage directly into the nearby Yangtze. Tian Jingfa has lived along the canal's banks for decades. He says the city government has made promises to clean it, but so far the canal still is not living up to expectations. When the weather gets hot, the smell is really bad. This wastewater is discharged all day long without stopping. It just keeps going. Awareness of the crisis has spiked due to a series of chemical spills over the last few years, as well as the nation's preparations for a Green Olympics. But while the central government is stepping up efforts to control big industry polluters, provincial and county level officials are still lagging behind in enforcing regulations. China's conservative state media has got in on the action, citing scientists that call the water cancerous and say the damage is largely irreversible. Today, 300 million people across China do not have access to drinkable water.